American Water Polo.
Hi, this is Damon Newman from American Water Polo, and we're here today to profile the club team Buxmont Water Polo and seeing what Ken Vincent has been doing lately. How you doing, Ken?
Hey, I'm doing great. It's a different time, but things are going well.
Excellent, excellent. I'm glad to hear you're holding up. So tell me a little bit about the club. Where are you guys located? What age groups are you focusing on?
Well, Buxmont Water Polo is located in eastern Pennsylvania. We pretty much cover areas from Harrisburg all the way down to Philadelphia and then up into the Reading area. Buxmont is a different sort of club where we are actually a collaborative club where we collaborate with local schools and clubs to have their athletes participate jointly in a single club in the eastern Pennsylvania area. We do have practices in the Reading area, and then we do have some activities down in the greater Philadelphia area as well.
Excellent. So what have you been doing lately to keep yourself busy? Obviously, I know you probably work. Take me through your day. How is that? How has the times affected you here?
Well, this certainly has affected me, and it's affected my lifestyle because we're at a stay-at-home phase. Even at work, I'm staying at home most of the time, and I used to get up around 5:30 in the morning and get my day started. Now I may get up at 6:30 in the morning, and I may sit on the sofa for about an hour watching the news and catching all the latest news, which of course doesn't change from day to day.
Right, right, right. That I find myself doing that too. It's on repeat. You're like, well, I'm gonna pull back,
And
right?
and in my job, oftentimes I'll go out and talk to people. Now I don't go out and talk to them. I sit in my office and talk to them on Skype or on the telephone. And so that changes things as well.
Yeah. Um, so how have you been keeping in touch with your athletes? How are they holding up? Obviously, I know you're your club team, so they're from all over the area, like you said, that Eastern Pennsylvania region. Have you been connecting with them?
We've been connecting with the athletes and the athletes' families, and we do that regularly. And I'm getting a lot of feedback from the athletes and the athletes' families. This is clearly a time where they're distressed about their participation in water polo. They were looking forward to just a great spring season, and that spring season is gone. Now, clearly, that distress pales in comparison to the distress that our society is seeing through this crisis. But at the same time, uh, really don't see this as being unique to water polo. It is a societal stress that we have where our normal activities, our social interactions, and the things that we connect to, we're not getting able to connect to in the same way. So as a club, what I'm trying to do is to at least maintain that connection. We can't replace it. There's no way that you can replace in water polo getting together as a team, getting in the water and playing water polo. But what we can do is keep the connections, and that's what we're trying to do.
Right. So you're trying to keep it all together. Keep athletes in shape, so to speak, and keep the morale high, and essentially trying to replace getting back in the pool, which we know is there's nothing like it, right?
Right. And the thing is that everybody does miss that. And the other, I think, stressor for many of the athletes and the athletes' families is the unknown. We
Right.
really don't know when it is that we're going to get back to what we call normal, if we ever get back to the same normal that we once had. But we know that we will get back to water polo. We know that is happening in the future. We just don't know when.
Right. And I know you and I talked a little bit about there's a lot of resources out there. Have you been like able to filter out some of that information? Have you been able to direct them to certain sites, or what's kind of some of the challenges you face?
Well, we have different people doing different things as far as maintaining their fitness. Since mentioned that we were a collaborative club, we are made up of a number of different clubs and schools, and some of those schools have their own program, and some of the kids in those schools have been following their own program. For those that don't, we have a workout of the day that we post, and we have an accountability sheet, an anonymous accountability sheet, where the athletes can post their results each day and see how they're doing and track how they're doing. So we're hoping to keep them connected through working out. Getting back in the water is a priority. We're looking at different options we may have as time goes on. We've had two athletes actually out swimming, open water swims.
Okay.
one with a wetsuit and one without. So it certainly is a challenge, and each person is dealing with the challenge a little bit differently.
Right, right. Yeah, I think that's we all kind of deal, internalize and deal things differently. So that's it's unique how we all kind of handle adversity, right?
Right.
So what are you looking forward to most, when you can get back on the deck and work with your athletes?
Well, I think just really making the connection with the athletes and having the athletes make connections with each other is probably the thing I look forward to the most. The thing that we miss in social distancing is the social part of our sport. And the sport is a social sport. It is part of being a team. It's part of working together. And we sometimes say that, we're getting into an age where we can do everything remotely. But the reality is you really can't replace personal interaction, even with all the technology that we have. So looking forward to that actually happening.
Right, right. Yeah, that's a really poignant statement. You like you said, there's, especially a lot of young athletes, how they communicate. There is no way to replace, being in front of somebody and being next to somebody and getting that social interaction.
Right.
So, final question. I know you're someone who certainly reads a good amount. Is there something, is there a book that you could recommend, whether it's sports based or something that just kind of take your mind off of the everyday society for athletes to kind of get into?
Well, I was thinking about that, and I was wondering whether or not it should be something to just totally get you away from this whole issue, away from sports. But one book, though, that stuck out was the book about Eric Little's journey called For the Glory. And it's a book about an Olympic athlete, a world champion, and a world record holder in the 400-meter race. And it's about 100 years ago, and Eric Little had to train in conditions that today would not be considered ideal whatsoever. And he had, a lot of different stumbling blocks along the way in his training and in his competition, but eventually was a world champion. And the book gets into his life, gets into his training, gets into his victory, and gets into the difficulties that he had to go through. And I think what the book might do is help us put in perspective that here we are in a time and place, and we think that we can't believe that this is happening to us. And put it in perspective that, yes, in the human experience, this has happened many times in the past, maybe in a different way. But difficulties like this, very, very serious difficulties, have occurred throughout our history. And the question is not what the difficulty is. The question is, how do we deal with it? How do we come through it? How do we come through it stronger?
Oh, that's great. Those are some powerful words, Ken. I couldn't really say it better myself. Hey, I want to thank you for thank you very much for your time. And we really enjoyed learning a lot more about Buxmont Water Polo and you personally. This is Damon Newman from American Water Polo. Check us out on Instagram, Facebook, and our website, AmericanWaterPolo.org. And remember, it's important to stay connected to what's important to you. Thanks a lot, Ken.
Thank you very much. Have a great day.
You too.